Okay, good afternoon. For part 5, the bonus episode. Like I said last week, there are actually 5 Wednesdays in, what month are we in? September? So, yeah, bonus round, bonus part, which is a bonus mostly for me because I chatted for the first couple of episodes and didn't get anything done. So, give us a wave in chat as usual. Likes, dislikes, subscribes, all of that jazz. As suggested on the Twitters and the Discords and stuff, going to be going over some of the cooler sides, so to speak, of Laravel today. Some of the things that make it fairly unique and a breeze to build with. So we're going to be touching again on the controller that we built last week for the diary view. And we're actually going to be deleting a load of code, which is good. We'll be showing you how policies and middleware begin to take over and basically kind of configuration rather than writing a load of code. So yeah, controllers. Then we'll be moving on to the views, of course, as well. So checking out the views we've got already for our diaries and introducing Blade components. Now they have just changed. Laravel 7 has introduced some slightly different syntax for Blade with regards to components. Along with that has been a whole host of products that have come out along with it as well. We might explore some of those. A little bit of Tailwind action. I'm sure Chris will be happy to hear. Only a little bit though. I'm not doing front end. That somebody else can do the front end stream at some point for Tailwind. There's a shout out now to anyone who fancies doing that. Covering the scheduler, so jobs, queues, and the awesome way in which Laravel, just makes cron basically a lot easier to do. Yeah, so like I say, I'm going to stop talking because what was the stickler from the first few? As you'll notice, actually streaming my full desktop today, which reminds me, I'm just going to go and click this button and turn off the navigations. Okay, cool. So yeah, seeing my whole desktop today, which means I won't mess up scenes, hopefully. I can't really, unless I push a button and put you on some other random scene and leave you there. Cool. Oh, and I've also got screen keys. Look, you can see my keys as they pop up. So yeah, keyboard shortcuts. Hooray! Okay, so the diary controller. I guess first things first, of course, actually. Let's come to the terminal. Let's get the Docker image started, or Docker images. And they're booting up in the background. We'll have a quick look at our controller. So yeah, we built up this effectively, it's a resource controller. So it has a bunch of predetermined. It's an interface in effect. So there is a bunch of methods in here that we need to populate in order for a Laravel resource controller to know what it's doing. So if you go to the index root, etc., etc. But like I say, we covered all this last week. What we are going to be doing in here, though, is deleting loads of code. But first things first. I caught up on one of the episodes. I can't remember what episode it was. It might have been episode 3. And as is always the case when you're watching someone else do it, weirdly enough it was me this time, immediately noticed what was up with some of the issues that we were getting. So some of the weirdities and oddities, especially the weirdity where it says this line is total garbage, and you look at the line and it's pointing at something that doesn't even make sense, a blank line or whatever. And that comes down to PHP FPM. So we covered at the start Docker. We're using the Bitnami Laravel image, which is designed actually for for production. So this is designed. This is a host-worthy, a production-ready image that you can chuck on your Kubernetes or chuck anywhere you like, and host your Laravel image. As a result, it has a bunch of caching and optimizations within it, within PHP FPM specifically. And PHP FPM will kind of cache PHP files, cache the objects, cache the classes, etc., within that. So, in development, what I often do, and forgot to do in this instance, is if you come into the public directory, like I say, this is the directory that you host, so you actually host one up from the root directory, security reasons, etc. If we come into the index.php file, in here is the root file that will kick everything off. So once we're through here, this will kick off the main Laravel application, and every request comes through here. I don't know, Chris. Hi, moo to you too. Is it Kubernetes or Kubernetes or Kubernetes? No idea, if I'm honest. I call it Kubernetes. Kubernetes. So which one of that is it? None of the neties, I guess. Kubernetes. Yeah, the first one I go with. I've heard it pronounced Kubernites. K8 would be a K8 gets you around the pronunciation, I guess. Cool. So, come in here. Never read it as E's. Interesting. Kubernetes. Don't know. If anyone's in chat knows how to pronounce, or Googles it, for example, give us a shout. Right. So, top of the index PHP file, we're going to call a function that is, I believe, opcache reset. And this will reset the opcache in PHP FPN every time a request comes in, and we'll get a nice clean cache or non-uncached version of our application. Little bit of an overkill, to be honest, I guess. We should probably turn off the caching, do whatever we need to do in order to disable that in development. But this is just a nice, quick, easy fix. And once it's there, we don't need to worry about it anymore. I actually use a different Docker image to Laravel Bitnami these days, but it's easier to... Anyway, whatever. Right, cool. So that's in. Our opcache is going to be reset every request now, and we won't get any weird caching issues in our controller where it's like the ID is not defined, and it is, and it's pointing to a line that isn't even close to the line it's complaining about. Alright, so let's come into our controller. Now, like I say, we're going to be deleting a lot of code today. Mainly lines like this. So within the show method, we are checking whether the diary that we have has got the currently logged in user within the diary. And if it hasn't, we are aborting with a 404. We can start to get rid of all of this though, and we can start to introduce a policy. So if we come over to our terminal, this is brilliant. I don't even have to look and check that we're on the terminal anymore. You can just see what I can see. This is fantastic. Right, and we're going to execute. We're going to run PHP artisan with the make command, and we're going to pass it a generator. What are we making? We're making something. I've forgotten already. We're making a policy, and it's going to be a diary policy. There we go. And it's going to be assigned to the model of diary. Now this is not really required. You could create a policy without a diary or not attached to a model, but this little flag will just add a load of well, we'll see. It'll reference our model within the policy so that we can make it a little easier to start working with that. Hey Simon, how's it going? Are we well? Etc. Hey everybody. Oh, 7. Hello. Alright, so we'll create our diary policy. And the policy is created successfully. That's a good start. And in our app directory now, we have a new directory called policies. And within our diary policy, you'll find a fairly similar layout to the resourceful controller. So again, this implements an interface. It implements, hey Hamza, afternoon. Implements an interface, and all we need to do is fill in the blocks. We need to tell it how it works out whether or not something is authorized or not. So first things first is the viewAny method. This is pretty simple. Whether or not they can view any models related to this. So if they're allowed to view any such diary model, to be honest, I don't think I've ever returned anything but true from here, but be curious, maybe I have, maybe I haven't. I'll have a think. But to be honest, most of the time we're returning true. So we're returning a boolean from here to say whether or not they can or cannot. So if we return true, they can view any diary, any of these models that we have assigned app diary. Boom. Now here comes in where that flag comes into play. So because we've passed in the diary model, or because we've told it what model we're assigning or looking after, we've got these automatic type hints in here, so that we can start immediately. So determine whether the user can view the model. This is a particular model. So Laravel has loaded a model as diary, and we have a user. We need to determine whether or not this user can access this diary. And this is where the method or the code that we wrote in the diary controller will come into play. So we can go and have a quick look at that. So we're going to say diary users contains the current user. And if it does, then they can access it. If it doesn't, then it cannot. So we can simply return this. We can come in here and we can pop in return diary users contains, and we're not going to do auth user at this point. We're actually going to pass in the user that we've been given. Perfect. All right. Again, this method here is a create. So are they allowed to create a diary? We don't have a diary hinted here because this is very similar to the viewAny method, in as much as quite regularly, to be honest, I will return true from this method because there isn't many instances where I wouldn't want people to be able to create as many models as they like. However, where you might want to do some things within here, or some examples I can think of off the bat, are things like limits. So if the user at the moment, if our user has diaries, and we'll ask for the, we want the normal plain because we just want the diaries. If the count is greater than 20, then no, you're not allowed more than 20 diaries. Things like that could come into play here. But at the moment, we're going to keep it simple. We're going to say that they can create as many as they like. Now here, we begin to get quite repetitive. This view method that's determining whether or not somebody has a diary can be copied to quite a few of these methods. So can they delete it? Yes, if they're in the user group, if they're related to the diary. Can they delete it? Again, yes, if they're within that diary. This is where we get a little bit, I'll probably just touch on these, restore and force delete. So we've got the delete method here. If you're using soft delete, so a method of soft deleting on your models, you'll find that when you delete your models, they don't actually get deleted from the database. What will happen is instead a flag will be popped on that model to say it has been archived or it has been deleted. And it's a soft delete trait. It's a trait you can just implement just by just using it within your model. And then you will get soft deletes instead. So if you've got soft deletes on, then you're going to have to inform them whether or not you want to allow them to restore it. And again, the same principles apply, right? If they're in the group of users, then they can restore it. And a force delete is basically, again, if you've got soft deletes on, you can say actually, instead of deleting, i.e. soft deleting, you can just force delete. So again, if they're in the diary, if they own the diary, they can do it effectively here. So this is all very simple. We could, if we liked, abstract this method into our own method at the top to reduce duplication. To be honest, it's pretty simple here right now. It's one method. It will be replacing it for one method for a function that calls one method. So at the moment, I'm pretty happy to leave this as it is and move on. So we'll save that. And the second step is to tell Laravel that this policy is the auth provider, the authentication provider for the diary model. So if we come into the auth service provider under the providers folder, again in the app directory where everything lives, come into here, it even gives you an example of how to do it. So we're going to come into this policy mapping and we're going to just say that our diary model is policied, that's not a word, but whatever, insert your own word there. It's managed, I guess, by the diary policy that we've just established. Now, I don't think I've received any questions, but I'm going to cover it anyway. There's a reason I don't use these methods. So where you've just entered the string in here, they aren't checked as far as I'm aware. You could probably get a linter to check that those are still the namespaces that exist, etc. But if you use a use statement, you will get some hinting along with it. So we will say we're going to use the app diary, and we're going to use app/policies/diary policy, like so. And then we're going to come into here and we're just going to say diary : class, which will give us the string that we just had a moment ago, that /app/diary, like so. And then we can just say that that maps to the policy that we've just grabbed. So diary policy : class, and a trailing comma. Perfect. Now, diary is managed by the diary policy. And we can come back into our diary controller and we can start deleting code. But not before we come into our constructor and add a piece of, I think this is a piece of, it's not technically a piece of middleware, it's an interface. Not too sure what this will do under the hood. It's not a piece of middleware. But what we can ask this controller itself to do is authorize a resource, I think, with a single resource. We'll find out in a minute. Authorize a resource, and then if we pass in the diary, I think, I can't remember now. I'm going to have to go and look it up. Bear with. So we come into documentation. Is there going to be an authorized resource? Unless anyone knows it off the... yeah, so there's this way where you can ask it to authorize inside of a method, and there's another way. Oh, here we go, resource controllers. So we've got a resource controller. You can make use of the authorize resource. There we go. Pass it in like so. So come back over to our code. Let's copy and paste that in so we don't get this wrong. So it's going to be the diary class here, and now we just need to tell it which parameter in the root. So if we go over to our roots and come into our web.php, we will find that it is a diary here. So we can just pass in diary here, and I think that's got us covered. So question is, can we access the 404 root, right? So this root here, showing a diary that belongs to somebody else. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to comment this out for a moment. We're going to see that we get the 404 initially. So we're going to come over to Chrome, we're going to open up our localhost, we're going to log in. I keep doing this. For some reason I decided to sign up with this address. Oh, it's awesome. I look up and you're just seeing this. Yeah, I'm going to stop babbling on about that. Alright, so we have 3 diaries in our database at the moment, or assigned to us from our view. So let's go and have a quick look in Tinker. Docker compose exec php artisan Tinker. We've got a sci shell. So I'm just going to quickly pop back. Oh, Chris is enjoying the front endiness. Right, so let's have a quick look. Diary all. We've got a bunch of them. We've got 7. One of these has got. We've only got 3 over here, so one of these has got to not belong to us, right? Looks like first diary is a good shout. This one here, we don't have that. Placeholder, and testing. No, not us. So number 2 is a good shout. So we'll jump over to Laravel in Chrome. We'll say, can we have a look at diary 2? Boom, 404. We're just confirming old behavior at this point. I don't know why I'm celebrating. Let's come out of here. And let's go back into here and delete our cruddy little method inside it, or cruddy little thing in here, and return straight just this view bit. Nice, nice. Getting better. So we now go back. We are going to get the first diary load. Obviously, we've removed the 404. Okay. So if we come back up here now and uncomment our authorized resource, hit save, refresh, forbidden. So turns out Laravel prefers their 403 instead of a 404. It's going to be right off, let's face it. It's certainly going to be right over me. So a 403 is returned now on diary 2 because we don't have access. And if we go back to diary, all is singing, all is dancing. We can still view index. We need to just check that we can create. That's just a return true. So we're still going to be able to return create, right? Yep. And we've got our cruddy little page here. Cruddy diary. And we've got our cruddy diary as diary 8 now. Back to diaries. Perfect. All working. Excellent. So what we now need to do is start deleting even more code, right? So for some reason I left this debug bar thing in here. Let's get rid of that. I think that was teaching you how to use the debug bar, perhaps. 2 lines here, assigning variable. What are we doing? Diaries. Let's just copy that out of there. Stick that there. Okay, so we got our diaries. Then maybe we take this out of here. Pop it in there. Nice. All right, next. Turns out this was one of the op cache issues. Create definitely saves. In fact, we can go to the definition if my thing will find it, because I did after the call. I don't know. But trust us anyway, in as much as I say that create does save. What was actually going on here is op cache was caching the code file, and we were not seeing our changes. So we don't need to call save anymore. We don't really need to extract the ID anymore. We do need to attach the user, so I'm probably going to grab this, stick it in here, take this out, yeah, nice, and then we'll update this because we've removed that reference there. So this should all work now, who knows. Again, displaying, oh, we already edited that. I was going to say, did we forget to do show? Edit. Again, bye-bye, and update again, goodbye. We do need to call save here. We can get rid of this ID bit and pop in diary-id, perfect. And then finally the destroy endpoint, diary delete, redirect diary. Excellent. Everything is working still. Diary 4 loads. Can we get to an edit page? We can get to an edit page. We can edit the piece of content. Excellent. Let's just actually confirm that we did edit that. So /edit, placeholder, edit. Enter. Yep. Excellent. So that was pretty easy, right? Quick dirty policy in our policies directory, real simple. And then we just tell Laravel this is authorized. Can you authorize the resource before you render it, right? Cool. Any questions? Concerns? I'm gonna commit it. So we added a policy, and we added some updates to our controller, and we referenced our policy inside of our auth provider. I'm going to turn that autocomplete off. It's very rarely useful. Right. Anything we need to ignore is our index.php, because of course that's got our op cache thing in it. We don't want to be doing that. Well, we're not using it in live, but yeah. We don't want to be doing that. Cool. We'll commit. Don't look at that thing there. Are named routes preferable? Oh, this is a good question. Yes, they are. I don't even think it's a preference thing. It is definitely a good idea. Should we update to do them? I don't. Gonna come out really dirty now. I don't often use them, to be honest. But I definitely should. So we'll have a look at those and update to use them. So we'll git commit this, update. Blimey, this is a good reason not to have autocomplete on. Update. What do we do? Update diary controller to use diary policy. Sweet. Don't know if that thing in wrong. I nearly showed you why I had to do that. That would be a really stupid idea. Right, cool. Come on. There we go. GPG signing. That's the kitty. All right. So yeah, named routes. Hamza, I mean, if you're suggesting them, is this something you could help us with, perhaps? So, named routes. I know them in theory. I've had them suggested to me a few times. Let's go and have a quick look. Name profile. Yeah, I knew that much. But, okay, here we go. How do we pass in parameters? Like this, by the looks of it. Can we just do that after here? What we'll have is a bunch of generated names, I think, of the back of that resource controller. So if we make this terminal really big, it's probably still going to look like complete trash. But if we list our routes, so all of those resource routes will have been defined already with a bunch of names which we can use. All right, let's refactor and use some named routes. Where's our first redirect? Here. Okay, it fits one parameter then, yes, otherwise pass like an associative array. Okay, I can just pass in just a single number rather than an array. Cool, or the parameter. All right, so the redirect here is a redirect diary view. So it's the diary show. Here we go, this one. So we're going to pass in this named route and the diary variable. How do we say we do that? We do that with this here. So let's copy that, pop that in, return a redirect to a named route, diary show, and then pass in the ID. Wait, it's not going to be ID, it's going to be diary and the diary ID. Perfect. Like so. Let's see if this works. So what's this doing is going to... yeah, I think it... no, it's single. Diary.show. Can you see that? Probably not. Wait, why is my tab... oh, because YouTube's about 2 seconds behind. Yeah, it looks like diary singular. This is another one of those things that I always... it's like naming things, right? The most difficult thing in programming and all that jazz. But I really struggle with singular and plural with the models. Should the model be singular but the controller be plural? But then the controller sometimes will get a singular item. Who knows? Who knows? It's a preference thing at the end of the day, I think. Whatever you can bear the sight of most. All right. So we're going to rain a named root diary.show and pass in the parameter of diary as diary ID. I'm going to have to do this. Save. Okay, let's see if it works. And then we'll refactor the other ones as well. So that was the store action. So it's the result of a post to the diary create endpoint. So Hamza's diary. Like so. Oh. How strange it is decided to break at that point. Could have sworn we used it a moment ago. Right? God knows. We've used this function several times, and the only thing which seemed to have changed is the redirect, but I feel like it may be. Yeah, we're logged in. Crazy. Let's try that again. Undefined variable user. Oh! This is complete garbage. Who wrote this? Come on, look. Guess it didn't. No, it didn't like my garbage code, but the weird thing is it didn't error earlier. It's auth user diaries need attachment to the diary, not users that doesn't exist as diary. Yeah. Let's not do that crazy way around. I mean, we could use the diary variable there. In fact, it's probably what I meant at the time, perhaps. Alright, save. Nothing like doing it live, is there? Hamza's diary. Yes! And we've redirected properly. But we've redirected via a named route, which means that it will track. So if we update any URLs and stuff, move anything around, change that /diary, then because it's following this named route, so long as we don't update the name, of course, then it'll track. So yeah, it's a good suggestion. Cheers, Hamza. We shall do that to the other ones. So we've got this redirect here, which is basically exactly the same. It's just going to the diary show route. So we'll copy this redirect here, drop that down here, and then finally this is diary index, I think. Yep. If we just pop over here, I'm pretty sure it's just diary.index. Yeah, just there for the /diary. Excuse me. Right, redirect to a root of diary index. Cool. Does like your name. Okay, so refactored those two named routes. Let's give it. Add app http controllers command update diary controller to use named routes. Fortunately, didn't have to put my pin code in that time, so we can. I didn't push the last time to be fair, but let's push it. All right. Let's see that on the GitHubs now. So, cool. Next. Right. Next. One of the things I did actually miss from this rudimentary controller that I wrote last time was a validator. Now, I'm not going to write it the rudimentary way this time because I forgot to write it the rudimentary way last time. So, in fact, we're going to use we're going to do it the Laravel way. So, in our controller, in our store method, and in our update method, we get passed a request, which is of type illuminate HTTP request. It's the basic standard implementation, standard interface for a request that's come into your application. What we can do is actually extend these requests and pass in validators to the request. So if we come to PHP Artisan again and ask it to make us what are the words I'm looking for? Request. And it's going to be a create diary request. Okay. And what we will now have is in app again, HTTP this time, and then under the requests, I can zoom in. Can you see that when I do that? I'm just going to sit and stare at the YouTube. Oh, you can. Oh, oh yes, nice. This is brilliant. I should have done this from the start. Okay, so requests in here. We have a create diary request class, and within this we have an authorize method and a rules method. We're going to come into the authorize method, determine if the user is authorized to make this request. Well, we're actually going to fall through to the resourceful controller, the policy. So we'll just authorize in this point. Now we could repeat our action here, authorize that they've got access to the diary that's coming in. But for now, hey Jono, how's it going? For now, we are going to just return. Well, Jono, I haven't seen .NET in absolutely donkeys. So if you fancy streaming some of that in November, give us a shout. I'd love to see some C#, some .NET action would be good. Right. Validation rules that apply to this request. So all we need to do in here is basically pass it in a validator. I think the same can be said back to you, can it not, Matt? Or are you waiting for a PR to be reviewed? Cool. In here, we're going to return an object, an array of our rules. Now, Laravel ships with a bunch of validators. And if we come up to the search, and validators, manually creating, no, I just want the validation rules. Where are they? Oh wait, probably here, in the introduction. That would be probably a good place to put the validation. Where are they? Come on. Available validation rules. Here we go. Bunch of validation rules in here. They're all got docs with each of them. Some of them will take arguments. For example, the before or equal or befores. These will take an argument after them in the form of colon. A P45 to be reviewed. Oh dear. It could quite easily be working whilst listening to me, you know, Johnny. Like, that could be a thing. So what are you up to? Are you working? All right. So we're going to use these, and yeah, pretty simple. We're going to come in here. We're going to tell it what the key is within the request. So this is our create diary request, for which there is only one very boring key of name, and we're going to say in our string required trading comma done. And this will load our required validation, which is somewhere here. And in here, the value is none, null even. The value is an empty string, it's an empty array, or an empty countable, or it's an uploaded path with no path. An uploaded file, sorry, with no path. Perfect, right? So if we come into our create diary request now, we have a validator done. All right, so if we save that, which we already had done, come into our diary controller where we want to actually do the validation, and come up to our imports, and let's just import our request. So HTTP requests create diary request. Cool. So Jono is asking where the TDD is. Ooh, Hamza's got a good suggestion. Bear with, in a moment I'll do that. Our request that's coming in here, instead of a illuminate HTTP request, we're going to pass in our new create diary request. Create diary request. So we'll come down here. Let's replace the PHP doc. It's not actually that important. And we'll just actually replace the important bit here, the type hint. And as soon as we do that, it's going to wrap our request and it's going to validate it. So hit save. Come into store. And we'll come into our Laravel application and we'll go back to that create root. Now, if we don't put a name in here now, we're going to get kicked back to the create page. Wasn't very exciting. Nothing to show for it, which is a little strange, right? But what's happened in the background is, I should be able to show you in the network tab, that if we hit enter now and we hit this create endpoint here, oh wait, no, it'll be this point here. We've sent a name that's blank, and the response we get back should have. Maybe it doesn't. Doesn't look like it, and you probably can't read any of that anyway because it's getting tiny. But anyway, what's happened is the validator has failed. It's redirected us back to this page, and it has redirected us back to this page with a load of session variables, flashed session variables, which contain a validator bag, a bag of errors. And in order to actually see them, we're going to have to display them on the front end. So if we come to our view, so if we come into resources, oh, actually, before I do that, nearly forgot. I'm just catching up. Yeah, Hamza, in Sublime, there is a way to increase font size uniformly in the editor as well as sidebar. Go to preferences and look for UI scale. This will be in my own settings, yeah. UI scale. Oh, look at that. So if we copy that, why has it got a little pencil? Oh wow! That is new. Is that new? Has anyone seen that before? A little pencil you can click on that takes it and puts it in your user preferences? Right, with a suggestion of 1.5, hey? Or 1.2 to 1.5. Let's hit save on the UI scale there. It's not going to update. So if we come out Sublime, boot it up again. Oh my god, that's weird. Oh, it's huge. Is that now too big? Let's take the font size down a little bit. Like more than 3 lines per page would be sweet. Is that good? Everyone see that? Don't know. Give us a shout. Give us a shout. Let me know. Okay, so what we're going to do, we are validating now, right? But we're not showing the errors. So we're going to come into our view. Thank you, Hamza. Brilliant suggestion. Liam, build it. Matthew. Liam's currently building a... how are you getting on with that? You're going to build a an interface to storage, right, for .NET? Under the same vein of Laravel? Basically, you guys need .NET on Rails, right? C# on Rails. And if you join us next week, Sean will be taking you through React on Rails. So we had Blitz.js talk a couple of weeks back now, the full stack React framework, which has basically been described as, yeah, React on Rails. So all of the Rails. Okay, I'm getting distracted. What view are we returning? Well, we can find that out quickly, swiftly. Come and look, diary.create, yeah? So in our views, diary, create. Very simple form with a CSRF method, but that is it. If we come over to the Laravel documentation, what we will find is there are some helpers for getting the error out. And that is not it. What we need is the Blade version of this. There we go. Blade templates, forms, validation errors. I love the search on Laravel. Boom. Nice, easy doc to follow. Fantastic. What are we doing? Well, there's our helper. If we just copy this, I'll explain it when we get across here. So, if we come in here now, come underneath our input text, and it is of type name, and we use our error blade. So this is, the @ symbol here is our little suggestion that this is actually a blade function, a blade method. So we're going to pass into the error method the name that we're looking for. So has name got an error? If it has got an error, we're going to take out all these bootstrap things. And we're going to swap those divs out for a P and get screamed at by Chris probably. But swap those out for a P, and within this slot we will have a message variable. Inside of there will be our warning, our error. Simples. Back out into Laravel, into our create form method. Hey Anna, the name field is required. Done. And now if we put a name in there, perfect. We now have our 12th diary with nothing inside of it, called name. Sweet. We can also do that with the update endpoint, and the update controller can take the same request because we are looking to establish that the name field is valid, it's filled. So we come down to our update. This is the response to the update. So this is the edit view. This is our post, or our put rather, for edits. And again, we're going to do the same thing, which is to override this request or type in a different request. And we're just going to update the PHP doc as well. While we're here, actually, a bit of side info. Again, Alex sucks at PHP development. You'll notice in here, in the PHP docs now, that there is a root slash. Now, I think this is a performance improvement. So when you look up things within a namespace, what's actually going to happen here, I believe, like I say, so don't take the carte blanche on this, but it's going to look up in this namespace, and if it doesn't find it in there, it's going to default and return to the root namespace. If you want to speed that up a little bit, I'm pretty sure you can come in here and just basically put a / in here and say, can you do it from the root? Don't bother looking in controllers, basically. But that's kind of a new, I believe it's new anyway. It's certainly been talked about a lot recently. in regards to improving performance within PHP. So another one of those things that I just haven't adapted to yet or looked into, because this fucking thing moves far too quickly anyway, doesn't it? Another thing is single quotes versus double quotes. You'll notice I go all over the place. Single quotes don't allow interpolation, so they don't have to look for an interpolated variable, so they're a lot quicker. So you should probably be using single quotes, where I constantly use double quotes everywhere. But yeah, anyway, cool. So that is our store route and our update route now validated. So if we come into diary 12 edit and try to remove the name in here now, it's going to come back. We're going to be presented with name again because we haven't popped our errors onto our edit screen. So we come back to diary, go into edit. We just again don't have our, like I say, our error thing on here. So we can copy this out of here and drop it underneath this one. And in a moment, no worries, Liam. Storage abstraction is going okay, just doing it a little bit at a time. Well, yeah, keep Jono and Matt up to date on that one, I guess. They might be interested. Cool. So that's the edit screen and the create screen now being validated. So we can't put in any empty diaries. I mean, we can't anyway, because the field is required and not null in the database. So what this is actually doing is avoiding a 500 error, or rather a debug on our side to say it doesn't have a default value. So cool. That's custom HTTP requests. I've got a little list here to make sure that I get through everything I wanted to get through today, and then I can call out for any requests. So in an input, keep name attribute empty string and use the placeholder attribute. Keep the name attribute empty, strip this, and use placeholder attribute. I don't follow. You'll have to let us know. Now a lot of this was repetition, right? We were repeating ourselves a lot. Or we haven't quite yet, but you just, what do you mean? So I can just, like that. Keep the name attribute empty string and use a placeholder attribute. I don't understand. What will this do? Is there some magic going on here that I'm unaware of? Input name, placeholder equals enter name here. Yeah, why? Surely that will send it through. It won't send the. It'll be an I'm well confused. Surely if we send this like this, it won't have a name. See the web page, really? Which one did we just edit? We did do the edit one. Yeah, name is nothing. Let me zoom it in. No name field now. No way. Name is the. Really? That's an odd one. Edited. Edit. No, apparently not. Network. Be this one. Right, yeah, we didn't send anything. Just a token and a method. Maybe that's a different browser thing? Maybe it's a Firefox thing or something? Never come across that myself. I think it's best to be specific. Either way, if there are defaults, I think I'd probably prefer to name it. We should probably have a placeholder, but let's cover all of that now in Blade components. Now, Blade. Oh, we should probably commit. forgot to do that quite a few times last week, and then just did a mass load of commits for part 4. So everything is up to date on the GitHubs. Cool. What do we do? We just added form requests, right? Yeah. So we'll add the updated controllers, and we'll add the new requests, and we'll add the resources that we've changed, and we'll say add a create diary request handler with validation. Type me numbers. Go. Cool. All right. Blade components. They've changed, it turns out. I think I was kind of aware of this change. Although the first place I saw it, and I'm going to forget the name of it now. Is it Blade UI Kit? Yeah. I haven't looked into this. I think there's a couple of people that have been playing around with this in the NordDev group. It's this bit that confuses me. I don't know whether they mean that literally or not, but it's built for the stall stack, so it might potentially be that it actually is rendering this locally. But this is a bunch of UI components for Laravel, which you can render quite easily with these call in your blade. Now, this is a little sneak peek, a spoiler if you like, towards what is the new style of component in Laravel. Now they used to, if we have a look, we'll have a quick look at what they used to look like back when I last did a blade component. This component, here we go. We'll need to move down a couple of versions. So if we jump into 6, components and slots, here we go. So they used to look very much like a blade method. At component, the name, and then in here you had your slot. So this was where you'd pump information into your component, and then inside your view, inside the actual component view here, you could just create the HTML markup you required, and then just drop that slot. And then I think you could do named slots as well. Yeah, here we go. So this is a named slot. It will be the title slot, and it will appear here. Now they've changed all of this, and now it looks a bit more like something you'd imagine from change in 7. So we'll go for 7 docs. We're currently playing around with 7. The 8 was released, I think, about a week before this whole thing kicked off. So I figured I'd stick to 7. All right. So components in the new world look a bit different. They look like React components or Vue components, or they look like HTML. Now they've taken the tact of doing an X dash. I guess they're feeling that this ties in line with headers. So, you know, if you've got a custom header, you pop X dash in front of it to signify it's yours, I guess. I guess they've gone the same way with components, but they work almost the same, but we're going to explore them now. So, again, you've got a nice generator for them. So let's go and start using our generator for those now. So, what should our first component be? Should it be a form component and some input? While we're in this area, we'll do a form component and we'll do an input component so that we can abstract a load of this away. And also, when it comes to time to style it, we don't have to style this error in now 2 places, but potentially several places, more than 2 places. All right, so let's come in here and we'll say docker compose. We have something in there. Oh, disappeared. PHP artisan make, what are we doing? We're making a component. And we'll make a form component like so. Perfect. And then we'll make a input. Perfect. Now, there are two ways of defining a component. You can either do it as an inline component, and by that I mean you create a component directory or components directory in your view as a folder, and you can just simply use these components. So if you've got no data requirements or no transformation requirements on this, and you can just have a simple plain component. Or if you would like, if you can further wrap that component with a class. So it's generated both for us at this moment. If you pass in, I believe it's the inline command. If we go help, maybe, yeah, dash inline will create one of those inline components as well. Although now I'm saying that, I can't remember whether it's inline to this. Let's have a quick look. I might be telling you porcupines. So the inline component views. Yes. Right. Okay, so there's two types. Apologies. There's an inline component view, which is this one here, where inside of your render function that we'll look at in a moment, you can just return some blade like this. And the anonymous components are the way I just described inline components. So anonymous components, you chuck it in the components directory inside of views and you load it. Simple. But you get no transformation going on there whatsoever. It's just a pretty naked, pretty simple view. We probably could just get away with using naked form components here, but I'm going to go the full hog so that you see it in all its glory. So we'll come into the components directory inside of our app, and we'll first of all upgrade our component here. Now the way Laravel Blade components work is, I guess I'm going to probably describe this in terms, maybe in some React-like terms, but you get some props and you define those props on your component by giving, just naming it as a public variable. So we will come along. One sec, my mouse is going haywire. Okay, yeah. Sweet, right, so yeah, we'll come along and we are going to define our props. So a prop on our form is going to be the method and the action. So the method and the action of the form itself. Now you should probably, if you're doing things correctly, stick some PHP docs around this. The method for the form, method attribute for the form. I don't know. We'll do the same down here, but I'm not going to do it anymore because it takes time. So action, the action attribute for the form. I mean, those feel obvious, but yeah, okay, carry on. So now what we need to do is say that we're going to receive these on construct and give them a type. So we're going to take a string of method and a $string, a string of action, and then really simply, this is kind of boring sometimes when you've got to kind of do this. This method and this action equals $action. Perfect. So now we've taken the variables passed into the construct and mapped them to our publics. Finally, we need to tell it which component to load, and it's going to do that from the views directory. I'm going to say components form. Perfect. So what have we done? Not a lot of this page. But what we have made available to our form component now is a method and an action, and we'll cover some cool extra features of that in a moment. So you get a random quote when you generate these. Simplicity is the consequence of refined emotion. Fair enough. Okay. So what do we need on our form? Well, let's just come in here and grab an example, shall we not? There's an example of one of ours. So what we'll need to do is we'll need to pop in our method from the variables that we've got from the class, and it'll just be plain and simple method, like so, and then the same for our action. Now, action isn't necessarily required. You could, for example, just have a post method to the page it's on, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to split this out a little bit so that we can build up this action if it's defined. So we're going to come in here, I'm going to say if action, pop the action attribute in, and if. Sorted. Then we're going to pass in our CSRF method. We're going to take out that the additional method that we've passed in here because we don't want to always put. We'll take that in from here. We'll cover that in a moment. And then finally, get rid of our input and pop in here, and I think it's exactly the same variable. So we're going to now pass in the contents, right? So if we come up here, I'm pretty sure, yeah, there we go. It's the same handlebars, it's just the slot. So we'll come in here, drop that in, and what will now happen is anything that we put inside of that form will be rendered here. This is like $children. Dollar children? This is like children in React. I don't know, we have the Vue equivalent. But lucky, to be honest, lucky I know this, the React one. Excuse me. It's time. Hour and a half. Cool. I just died, bear with me. Oh. There we go. Right. So we're passing in our slot, which will render anything that we put inside of our component in the blade. Okay. Excuse me. Right. We now need to fill out our input one, which we will use our input text here as the basis for it. What we need to do first of all, of course, as you're all screaming at me, potentially, is update our class. So, what does a component take? It takes a an input. What does it take? An input, a value, a placeholder, the value of action can be a named route instead of a URL. Oh, curious. Value of action can be a named route instead of a URL. What, as in actually literally? Named route instead of a URL? So you can just put diary.show as an action? So here? How would you then pass in the parameters again though? That's weird. I don't like these weird things, Hamza, if I'm honest. These weird weird little action thing. Right, so diary.update or whatever? Weird. As an associative. Right. But confusing. You're confusing me. Throw me curveballs here. Undo. Right. Copy our input out, and we're going to update our input here. So we've got a type, a value, a placeholder, anything else we want on our input at this stage? Don't think so. But I'm sure we'll find out. So we'll go to the view and we'll drop our view in. Now I am going to wrap it in some empty divs for now. like so. And we'll start injecting some of these variables in. So the type is actually just going to be $type. The name is a variable that we'll need. Name and a value. Good grief, that little screen thing key got a bit crazy at that point, didn't it? And then again, we're going to render errors, but we're going to pass in our name variable into here and then render the message. Save. Alright, so we need to come in and update our input class to tell it that we're going to pass in the new variable. Did I put a name in there? No. Type, let's put it at the top. Public name. So we got name, type, value, placeholder. And again, we're going to need to pop those in our constructor. It's going to be quite a few, so we're going to split those out. So string name, string type, string value, string placeholder. Okay. And you know the score by now. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to copy them out. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to paste them in. And we're going to do this, and then copy equals $paste. I love Sublime. Alright. I mean, you can probably do that in everything else, but I know how to do it in this one. Required and optional variables. Now, in our form, I mentioned that the form action is optional. But if you pop it in here, it is no longer optional because our constructor is expecting it. Unless we pop in a default. And we'll pop in action equals blank there, blank string, and our if method will pick that up and notice it's empty, I hope, and not add an action. So we've got a form, we've got our input, our render view is hooked up. We're good to start using these, I think. We will need to actually come in here and add some defaults potentially to here as well, actually. So we'll have a default type of text, a default value of blank, and a default placeholder again of blank. Okay. So we will update our create controller. Oh no, sorry, what am I doing? I'm going to update our view now. So our create view should now start to use our new blade components. So as was suggested, x-form will look up our form component, and then we can start passing in the parameters. So we need a method of post and an action of diary, like so. And then everything inside of the form, like I say, will be put in that slot area. So if we just update our trailing form here to be x-form, we now have our form, but this time with rendered from our component. So if we save this now with some luck, if we go to the create page now, we're going to see our form. Excellent. That was a moment of tension for a start there. I guess the question is it really there? But it is, I think. Awesome. So if we now replace this with our input component, is the word I'm looking for, and we need to pass it in a name of name. Anything else that was on that? I don't think so. Type of text, which is default, all good, because it's self-closing tag, because we don't need anything within it. We don't need a slot. So our form has become a lot smaller, but it's also a lot more it's a lot drier. There's the one. That's the term I'm looking for. So our method post action name, all good, I think. Hit save now, and again we're going to render the same form. Nothing has changed, but we have got a div now inside of here. Just going to zoom that in a bit more. We have now got the div, which is indicative that the component has taken over at this point, and rendered it inside of a div instead. Okay, let's explore some cool things. Now, I said that, or it touched upon for a moment, just the briefest of moments, that there's something quite cool that goes on with the named props and the unnamed props. So if we come into our create screen now again, so this is our create view where we're pulling in the form. We've got method post action diary. If we come in here and say class equals card, is that a bootstrap thing? That should work. If we pass in the class now and refresh, we're not going to get it. It's not going to come through on this form. What Laravel does is any additional attributes that are specified here will end up in an attributes bag, a bag of attributes. And what we can do is we can consume them in our view. So we come into our, oh, not this one, into our component. We come into our form view, and after this final attribute here, pass in $attributes, I think. And now, if we refresh, we should have, yeah, our class that's come through. Okay. Now, say we also wanted to define some classes. We want some default classes, but we also want to allow the user to potentially add some further classes themselves. You can use a really handy feature called merge, and this will merge your attributes that you provide with the attributes that the user, the person using the component, has provided. So if we just come in here and say class, and we'll say we'll put card in here. No, let's not put card in here. Let's put turnip. Just because I've just literally spotted a message about the game with the turnips in it. This will take our bag of attributes and merge it with our bag of attributes, and we'll now get turnip card. Now there are some caveats to this. One of those is the way it plays with kind of removing a class in favor of a new class that you're going to put in, and logic. There isn't any way that I'm aware at this stage to add any logic to that merge. It is very much a smash it together, the result is the result. Now there are a few people working on specifically some Tailwind like methods that will be designed to basically understand what you're passing in and what is replaceable. So there's like a syntax for basically telling it that anything with bg-red, for example, or the bg-red class can be replaced with anything that's bg-star, for example. But they're working on that, the RFC or whatever they call it. They're working on it and looking into it and investigating it and finding out what's the best way to proceed with this. But at the moment, we have our merge. So we can merge in some classes. And like I say, it becomes a bit difficult with Tailwind. It makes a bit more sense when you with your own classes, perhaps. But yeah, it can get a bit complicated with Tailwind. So we won't pass in any classes for now. That's to come. We'll pop in our attributes plain, so we can just pass in a load of classes, or for that matter, any other attribute that we possibly want to assign to the form. And then we will do the same within our input, and we'll pop that just simply on our div at the top here. So attributes, give us all the attributes that we don't have or we don't know of, we haven't named, and pop them in there. And it will sort out all of the, it does the things with the things to turn it into HTML attributes. So it's an array. And it will convert it into type equals or whatever you've named the attributes will be put in there. Alright, so that's our form and our input, I believe, done. So if we come in here now, we probably want to come in and edit the edit one. And we're going to take particular precedence towards this method. So there was a reason I removed the method from the main form. Okay, we will x-form, and we're going to pass in those same parts I did. So I'll just catch it. Ah, yeah. I see what you're saying. Yes, you can totally use the same named roots. Right, okay. Yeah, House is just pointing out that we could be using the named roots again, sorry, for these actions here. So let's do that now. Let's update this to follow that convention as well. So if we come into let's just do this create one quickly. In this action here, we can use the same logic around named roots to ask the routing table to generate as a URL basically to this. So diary, where are we going? Diary dot, I think, create. I need to check that. So we come in here, print out our roots again. The amount of times I just pushed up, and it would have been quick to just type it. Diary create is the get, and diary store is the post. Is this the post one? It is the create. So yeah, we want diary.store. And again, as you've pointed out there, thank you, Hamza. You can pass in an associative array here and pass in any variables you need to pass in. We will do that in a moment with the other one. Okay, so that's just getting us hooked up to a named root. Again, the same benefits apply within that controller there, or the same benefits apply as were in the controller, sorry, and that is that they will now follow the URLs, so any updates to that. Right, so this is the update endpoint, and it's going to go to the put patch diary.update by the looks of it. Yep, diary edit is the view. We want to get diary update. At this point, we're going to want to pass in some parameters, and that will be the ID, and the ID is diary-id. Okay. Excuse me. Oh dear. Right. We can drop the CSRF because that's being injected by our component now. We will leave the method put in here. We're going to pass the post through to the form component, and then if we pass this method put in, it's going to drop us an input into the field, which will override the post method and trigger a put. Now we can just call in our X input, so the component version. Pass in, we don't need the type, we just need the name. Value is diary name. I think that's it. And that is going to include the input and the validation. And hit save. So I don't know what's beating on me, but it's beating on me something wicked. And we go into Hamza's diary. And then we tap edit. Ooh. We've got an issue. What is issue? Death by Laravel. Death by Laravel and its beautiful error page is more like that. What is your problem? It is an edit.blade. Anyone see the missing end if? That might be somewhere else. I haven't added any more ifs, have I? What is it talking about? Answers on a postcard. Boolean required on. Boolean required field on output. Misplace order. Do you have to close the if on form blade? Yes, yes, I would have. Where is the if that's not closed on form blade? This one. No default value for placeholder. Pretty sure I did, didn't I? Oh, I might not be using it though. Good point. Yes. Also missed a typo. Oh, wow, this is awesome. Can you guys just sit here while I just do normal? I just start. I'm thinking about adding like a contractual clause or something that allows me to start streaming client work. But don't tell any of my clients that. But yeah, if you could sit here while I do client work, that would be amazing. Okay, so we're missing the placeholder from here, and also you missed the type attribute. Did I? Oh, what, on this one? Don't need it, because we're defaulting it. If that's what you meant, sorry. It probably isn't. I probably have genuinely missed a type attribute somewhere. But in our input component, we're defaulting it to text. So I don't need to, unless I want a number, basically. Which we'll cover in a second. Crazy itch. Oh, Jesus. Okay. I think. Oh yeah, we actually need to solve the error, don't we? Okay. Unexpected end of file, expecting an else if or an else or an end if. So we've opened an if somewhere that it doesn't think we've closed. In edit.later.php. I mean, that part of it is complete garbage, isn't it, really? Because there is no if or end in sight in here that I can see. Sorry, Hamza, I'm sure it's not this, but you know, we start tearing things down at this point, right? Because I can't work out what it is. Yeah, it wasn't that. It's got to be in the form component. It must be this part, I think. That's the only if we've got, so I'm going to delete that. It isn't. Yeah, there's an if in the form and no if anywhere else. What the hell is it complaining about? Awesome. Awesome. What the fuck have I done? Start deleting things now until the error goes away. Delete the whole thing. See, closing. Hamza, you legend. Look what we did. Look. X-form, closing form. That is not a very helpful error message. Unexpected end of file, expecting an else if. Thank you, Hamza. Excellent. Missing the diary parameter because I've passed it in as ID. This is that named root. I have no idea what I've got in my throat, but I've got something. So we need to pass that in as diary. Refresh. Oh. Looks like we've got some encoding issues. Okay. That's curious. That'll be something to do with this escaping the HTML, possibly. We can try and turn that off, I think. Although it's probably sensible to have it on. I don't know. Probably best to leave the escaping off. Escaping on. Don't know. There is a way to stop it though. Blade stop escape. Oh wait, no way! The fourth one. Jesus. Change it to that apparently. Is this? Yeah, I think this will do it. Oh, there's one that will obviously just turn off the blade interpretation. I don't think that's this one. Double exclamation mark, both sides? I think so. Yes. Yeah, there we go. It's not really the escape, but now I feel dirty. Oh, sorry. Hamza had answered it and I didn't spot it. Thank you. So yeah, unescaped now. Cool. Alright. Excuse me. Again. Okay. What's next on my list to do? We've got blade components in. Does a quick shout out now, and drop offline for a second, and yeah, I'll be back in a moment. Question for the downtime is, do you want to see a little bit of Tailwind stuff, getting it set up and configured inside this Laravel environment using Mix, and a little touch upon the front end things in Laravel, or do you want me to move directly, swiftly on to some more back end stuff? We've got the scheduler, which is pretty powerful, and queuing in Laravel to cover, or certainly those are on my must cover by the end of the day, basically. It's whether you want me to see me do Tailwind stuff. I can do a little bit of it, we can set it up and get it running, and then I'll leave you to experiment with Tailwind with somebody who's a bit more knowledgeable in front end and Tailwind stuff. I'm going to pop away. I shall be back momentarily. I just need to find a screen to put you on. Where's OBS gone? Okay, I'm going to stick you on the Patreon screen, which I believe doesn't have a mic on it. Alright, I'm back. Just noticed as well, I think that might be out of date. The Patreon page. So apologies if your name is not on there and you were expecting it to be so. It will be on those slides for tomorrow evening for our exploration of Cypress. Nearly forgot then. Not Cypress Hill, Cypress JS. I cannot describe how tempted I was to drop a Cypress Hill GIF. Can you hear me? I've got a message on YouTube that says you possibly can't. Hello? Feel like it. Wait, my head's. Yeah, I just waved on screen. Could you guys hear me? So, thanks. Yes, thanks, Simon. Weird. Got an error message on YouTube that just says like there's no audio. All right, cool. The answer was, who wants Tailwind? Hamza, yes to Tailwind, but later. Okay. We'll get an expert in. Well, I don't like that term, but a professional in. All right. So I'm not going to make it pretty, much to Chris's disdain, I'm sure. We'll carry on looking at these default style sheets, and we will cover the scheduler and queued jobs. Now, I do have an example for this application, but we're not there yet. So I've made a really crude example for us to follow in order to get queues going and jobs and scheduled tasks. So, out of the box, Laravel ships with the knowledge of queues and the ability to queue things. What it's going to require is a queue driver. Hang on, I'm trying to work out which is the best way to go around describing all of this. So, we'll need a queue driver, and that queue driver we're going to go with Redis, and we'll set all of that up later. Why I'm going to set it up later is because I want to demonstrate some of the kind of opt-in functionality that comes shipped in Laravel. So, what we'll need is we'll need a command and we'll need a job. We'll need a command so that we can kick off a job, and we'll need a job for the command to kick off. So, back again to the make, excuse me, and we're going to make a command, and it's going to be that. Yeah, that'll do. Send notifications. All right. Then we'll need a job, and we'll call it the same thing. Make job send notifications. Okay, cool. Now, if we come back into our application and back into our app directory and into the console directory that I just opened, you'll find a directory called commands, and in there you'll find your new send notifications command. The first attribute is a signature. This can take the form of anything, really. I mean, you probably shouldn't. I don't know what happens if you conflict with an existing name. I've never done it. Maybe we'll do it in a moment and see what happens. But we will need to give it a signature. I'll show you what I mean by a signature in a moment. We'll need to give it a description. Sends notifications. Question mark. Don't need the construct because we are not typing it not needing anything within this command. It's very simple. When a command is run, it will fire its handle method. So inside of here, we just need to tell it what to do when it's commanded to do so. We're going to dispatch our job. We're going to tell it to send, dispatch our job. So we'll import it, app, jobs. I haven't even opened this. I haven't shown yet, but there's a send notifications class in our jobs directory now, new directory. App jobs sends notifications. Now there's going to be an issue here. We've got a class of send notifications, and we're importing a class of send notifications. What you can do in PHP, in fact in most things to be honest, is rename it. And we're just going to keep it nice and simple. It's the job. It's the send notifications job. If we pulled in more than one job into here, then perhaps we called it send notifications job. But I'm just going to call it job within the context of this class. Now, if we come down to our handle method, pass in our job class, and tell it simply to dispatch, call the dispatch method on it, it will do its job. Hunky dory. So, coming to the send notifications job, it's got nothing in it. Like I say, I did have an example, but we are not there yet. There's a bunch of stuff that I was going to cover within like push notifications and the notification system within Laravel, but it's probably going to have to be like season 2 of Laravel at some point in the new year or something, and I'll cover some of those more advanced features. So if there's anything else you'd like me to cover within it, give us a shout, and I'll line it up for season 2. So we'll come into our job. We're going to come into our handle method. Again, it's the method that's called when this job gets handled, when it should run. What should it do when it runs? So we're going to make a fairly contrived, like I say, example here. We're going to do a for each, and we can use the range function to get ourselves an array from 0 to 10, and then we're going to just say as I. So now we've got a loop that will run 10 times, and then we can just say sleep 1. Effectively, we've got a 10-second job that's just going to sit here for 10 seconds. But what we would probably want to do is some kind of interactivity, so it sees some messages. So if I just simply call in, I don't know where it is. Where's the log namespace? Logging. In there somewhere. There we go. Everyone's just screaming, use PHP Storm, you loser! But it's fine, it's fine. I just copy and paste it. At some point I'll remember it, you see? I won't remember it if I use PHP Storm. If we use the log facade, we can just stick a simple log in the logs. Sending notification to user hash $I. Yeah, so user 0, 1, 2, etc. Cool. That's it. I'm pretty sure that's it. We've got a job and a command that will run it. So I've touched upon the signature, and I said I'd explain it in a moment, and that moment has arrived. So if we ask PHP Artisan again for all of the commands it has established, we've been using a lot of these make commands. That's probably it, to be fair. We've been using a lot on the make commands. I don't think we've been using any others. But what you'll notice is we have a new one under the notifications namespace. So I have kind of stolen, I've requisitioned somebody else's namespace here. There is already a notifications table, which will tie into that push notifications stuff, or just notifications in general I was talking about a moment ago. But we've got our new one here, so we can use this to trigger it. So if I now go into here, ask the Docker image to run PHP Artisan notifications. Oh, notifications :set. What's it doing? Well, it's going to sit here now because it's going to run through the 10 sleeps whilst logging. Okay, it's returned. So if we now have a little look at our storage log, our log, we can see every second, 46, 47, 48, 49, it ticked through and sent a notification to the user number 2, right? But it sat there, right? It sat there for a considerable amount of time. If we run it again, it's going to sit there again for 10 seconds. And that's because this queued job is using the default Laravel queue. And the default Laravel queue, if we go to the env, we can find that out, is one called sync. And that is synchronous. So in other words, it will, instead of dispatching, run the job just as if it had been written in that PHP file, right? It's just going to call that method, and however long that job takes to process, it's going to sit there. If that's as a result of a request, then you're going to need to start keeping an eye on timeouts and stuff, and also you probably don't want a user sitting there for 10 seconds while they wait for your task or the task they've asked to run. So why not flash a message back to them saying, okay, we'll deal with that, come back later, and instead queue it in the background. And it's all done. It's all set up now. We've got queued jobs, we've got queued tasks, everything that supports queues in the system is all ready and raring to go. We just don't have a queue driver, or rather we don't have a separate queue driver, something that's running in the background. So let's establish that. Now it's going to be a bit of a pain, because we're going to have to amend our Docker image. The Bitnami Laravel image does not ship with PHP support. Sorry, PHP support. Doesn't ship with Redis support, and we also don't have a Redis server. So first things first, let's get a Redis server. That's nice and easy because we're using Docker. So we can come into here, add a new image. We'll call it Redis, and we'll use the image Redis. Done. Come back over here, Docker compose up. Oh, bollocks. Yeah, that was right. That was right. I've just missed the -d, and now it's stopping it because I freaked out. Did it create it? Created a Redis instance, so should just be able to start it now. There we go. We now have a Redis instance running that we can talk to from our instance. Okay, quickly log in to the image, and we need to give it the Redis client libraries, so the PHP Redis extension, because it's not currently running. Who we logged in as? Bitnami, that's useless. Exit. Come back over here. Use exec, but this time if you don't use past the -u, you can give it a user ID. If you pick as user ID 0, you're going to see that we're logged in as root. No password required. Apt update. The Docker image to save on space has basically trimmed all of its repos, so if you try to install with apt, you're not going to get anything. It's going to say it's not found. If we then install php dev, brilliant. We actually need to install it. You can't just say php dev. You also need to be able to install correctly. What we're looking for is this autoconf and no. Somewhere anyway, there'll be a PHP eyes, which are the two packages we need to basically embed some more extensions into our PHP image. Hey man, I did consider doing this beforehand, but it feels like I'm cheating, to be honest. I guess some people might want to see this. Especially if they're using the Bitnami Laravel image. Now, like I say, I do use a slightly different image. In fact, I use this image that we tried to use at the start, and for whatever reason it didn't work at that particular time. But I use Loris's image usually. I've actually built my own Laravel Docker image that's on my local machine I can use. Good grief, this is so, come on. Not as slow as the other tasks that we're going to run, which will require the composer package manager to kick up. Right, here we go. It's returned. So, we've installed PHP eyes, FPIs, or whatever it's called, an autoconf. We should now be able to use Peckle, ridiculous name, to install the Redis extension. There it goes. I don't know why this screen keys just stuck on my screen. We don't need, no, we don't need any of this. That's complicated stuff. You'd know if you needed it. I'm just going to pop over here and kill that screen key thing because it's really bothering me. A bit of luck is that. No, no. God knows what it's called. Fine. Oh, it's totally crashed. I can't even right click on it. Wow. Well, that went well. Now I've got a Control S stuck over my screen. Excellent. So you might see this error. Yeah. Install went okay, but it couldn't find the PHP-ini file. And you just need to basically hold its hand a little bit and go and find it. So if you php-ini, you'll get loaded configuration file and its location. So we'll don't have any code editors installed, so we'll just install Vim or your preferred terminal text editor. Perhaps it's Emacs. Blimey, that was close. All right, Vim or your preferred terminal code editor, and wherever that file was, opt bitnami php, opt bitnami php, lib php-ini, lib php.ini, go. Now you can pretty much put it anywhere, but if we extension, there should be a slot for them somewhere. You'll probably find the rest of them. Keep going. Jesus, this file's huge. Dynamic extensions, we're getting somewhere. Here we go, look. They're right down the bottom. There'll be a list of like example ones. And then let's come in here, insert mode, shift insert. Great, it's copied some bloody text from the thing. Fortunately, it's not too complicated. Extension equals redis.so. Escape, right, and quit. That was :WQ. Alright, cool. Now we should have Redis installed in our image. We can exit out of our Docker image, and we just need to do the fairly routine things. So if you've already got PHP Redis installed, you can ignore all of that. If you're using this Docker image, you will just need to add that. If you're using the Loris image, it comes pre-packaged with Redis, which is why I'm using it now. All right. Next, the next step is to simply install the package that that Laravel is going to need in order to establish the connection. And there it is, Predis/Predis. Composer require. Laravel obviously is able to do a bunch of these things, but shipping with all of the packages. Shipping any of those packages would add to the weight. So if you want Redis, install the Composer package and now wait till the eventual heat death of the universe for Composer to clear. You have not enabled any PHP extensions like MySQLi, etc. I don't know, to be honest. Is that what you said? We'll leave that running in the background. That'll be a while. We can see it from the title. Zoom in a little bit probably would help. Okay, docker compose exec bash cat php and then cat that. It must be installed. It'll just probably be somewhere else within this massive PHP-ini file, or for that matter in another one. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. Look. It's weirdly commented out there, actually. It's not here. But yeah, it definitely supports MySQL. So must be installed. Right. Installing Predis. We're good. Oh my god, this screen key thing. If somebody could find out what screen key runs as. Really? It's not going to... No, I grepped for screen key, didn't I? Or grep for screen. What on earth have they called it? How frustrating is this? No, helps if I could spell it as well. Ugh. What? Ignore it, move on. Right. We've installed Predis into Composer. We've got Redis in the Docker image. We should be good to go. Let's find out. Oh no, we're not. We're on one final task. We need to come into env and give it its details. So the Redis host is Redis because it's a Docker image. So I'll talk to the host name Redis. Port and password is fine. Queue connection, Redis. Save. Bit of luck, this is it basically. Docker, compose, exec, php, artisan, notification send. So we're never going to see what happens. Yeah, perfect. See how quickly that returned? As opposed to before, when it was processing that queue synchronously, it is now processing it. Well, it will attempt to process it in the background. So it's been queued. It's not running. So if we check our logs, we don't have a bunch from, yeah, we're looking at 1427 right now. It would show up as 1327 on the box because it's an hour behind. But we don't have any logs yet. It's not run. What we need to do is give it a worker. So the queue is running. It's got the job queued in it. What we need now is to, again with an artisan command, run queue:work. Now this comes with a bunch of flags you can pass to it. You can tell it which queue. You can tell it to run just the next job on the queue. Stop when empty, etc. There's bunches of things. You can limit stuff. Yeah, and what you do in a production environment or a hosted environment, you can use things like supervisor to keep queue:work running, and if it exits, boot it back up again. You can run as many of them as you've got CPUs, or to be honest, as many of them as you feel worthy of running. Worthy? That's a weird way of saying it. But you can also pass in priorities as well. So you can have a high priority queue and a normal default queue, and you can push things onto a priority queue, and this little queue worker will know the ins and outs of that. So if we just call queue:work just as you would with your supervisor application and hit enter, it's going to go ping, processing app jobs send notifications. And in 10 seconds time, 13, 29, 38. 39 even. I think everyone's been screaming at me that there's 11 entries in that 0 to 10, isn't there? It's processed. And let's watch this all come together. So if we chuck this, where did it go? There we go. Chuck this over here, grab another window. Exit out of our Docker image that we're apparently connected to, and let's tail our logs. Hit enter a few hundred times. Open up a new terminal. There we go. And we've got our 3 windows now. If we, drag that one down there, drag that one up there. Perfect. Jump into my Analytics directory. If you've not got whatever that jump thing is, you need it. Talk to me later. It's awesome. Jump to Analytics, and we're going to run the command, right? We're going to run the thing that kicks off the job.php, artisan, notifications, :send. And I've just realized I can't actually see chat anymore. Okay, cool. Locker compose, is that artisan, notification, send. So we'll take it away. So we sent the job, the processor picked it up, the logs are now logging it out, and processed. Done. A queued job. And as soon as we deploy it to production and we don't have it anymore, we're going to default back to that synchronous driver, right? And everything is going to work exactly the same. It's just going to take a little longer to do it, right? We're getting logs in our Laravel. Our queue worker isn't getting involved, but this terminal up here is going to sit and wait until this user is finished. And the same can be said of a endpoint as well. So if you dispatch that job with a synchronous driver, and you're waiting for a user's waiting for interaction, they are going to be waiting that 10 seconds until that job completes. Cool. Those are queues and jobs. The final thing I'd really like to touch upon is the scheduler. So we can come into here, let's put this back into Redis, and let's come along to, again, within this app directory, obviously, within console, you'll find a kernel.php. Come into here, it'll even hint at how to do it. Schedule, anything in here, you can schedule, right? So we say schedule, the command, notifications, :send, and we can give it a bunch of terms for getting it at how regular it wants to be, right? So if you come into Laravel Docs, highly recommend checking out the scheduling, defining schedules, yeah, that'll do. The scheduler here, and here we go. The ton of, I mean, if you just want to, if you love cron that much and you want to write your own cron, write your own cron. If you don't, use any one of these many commands to establish a cron. Basically what it's doing in the background is writing this, I think, but yeah, you can use one of these handy methods. So let's use every minute. In fact, actually this isn't going to work because I don't have cron. But anyway, I had massive all-encompassing ideas of being able to just show you this working, but unfortunately I don't think it's going to. I mean, we can fake it. So the way you hook this up is nice, really nice. You come along, and in here somewhere, where is it? Oops, can't be type. It's probably just going to be right. Yeah, there we go. So you still need to use cron, but there's no setting up different cron jobs to run at different times. There's no need to mess about with cron at all beyond adding this one cron task that will run every minute on your server, and it will cd to your project and run the schedule : run and pipe it to dev null. And basically what will happen is it will ask, PHP artisan schedule run will return or will kick off any jobs that it's found inside of that schedule that match the current time. So if we run it now, PHP artisan schedule : work. Does it work? Does it say work? Pretty sure it's run, yeah. I spotted the autocomplete there and knew I'd got it wrong. So schedule : run. There we go. Do you see that? It's kicked off this job over here because it realizes that this task needs to be run every minute, and that is currently a minute. Yeah, pretty much that simple. Hook it up to a time, hook it up to a daily, and you've got scheduled commands, cron built in. Awesome. That is everything I had to. Like, my conscience wouldn't have let me, get on with the rest of the month without having shown you some of the awesome kind of baked-in functionality. Yeah. Any questions? Anything you need me to cover? Anything you'd like to see? Yeah. Bear with. I'm just gonna pop away. I return. Okay. Hamza, how is Laravel working with required PHP extension? Without the... To be honest, this is one of the reasons I'm not using that image anymore, that Bitnami Laravel image. It is incredibly... NETT. It is incredibly complicated, that image. I'm not a DevOps guy. I'm not great at setting up servers and kind of pulling them apart and working out how they've been put together. So I'm at a complete loss to pull apart that Bitnami Laravel image. The reason I prefer the Loris image is because it is a lot simpler. It's a lot... it's just a lot simpler. Do this, do this, do this, do this. Whereas the Bitnami Laravel image, if you take a look in their GitHub, it's huge. And the stuff that's baked into it is also absolutely, utterly... Yeah, there's a lot baked into it. It's very complicated. I am certain MySQL I or MySQL ND will be loaded into that image. Where they get loaded or how they get loaded is anyone's guess really, but it will be in there for sure, because we're connecting up to MySQL, aren't we? Are we? Yeah, of course we are. We've got a load of models. So we're hooked up to MySQL as we speak. So it's definitely in there. Hamza on the NETDD lined up. TDDD. I think I did too many Ds. NETDD lined up. Like I say, we can totally cover that. Perhaps I'll put that down in season 2. The reason we didn't cover it now, sacrilege, I know, but just for time's sake, to be honest. I wanted to get through some bits. I wanted to get through a big chunk of it. Whilst we could have written some early tests, it is quite quick to set up. I didn't want to get too bogged down with that. I wanted to show features off. PHP unit is pre-installed. It's got all of the lovely PHP unit goodness that comes out of the box. The environments are all set up. There's a PHP unit configuration file somewhere in here. There it is, right behind the screen key thing that you can't bloody see behind. I can't click behind. Jesus. There we go. PHP unit. This is all set up, so you've got the app environment, reduces all of the bcrypt stuff so it's not hammering your CPU or it's hashing passwords. You can set it up to just go connect to SQLite rather than a database of some description. So yeah, it's pretty sweet. The other cool part about Laravel is the other projects that come along with it for testing as well. There's a project, Laravel Dusk. We're going to be covering Cypress, like I said, tomorrow evening with Ryan. Laravel Dusk is a similar concept. Allows you to hook into browsers, all different kinds and types, including Safari, I believe. And lets you automate them. Run a bunch of E2E front-end tests across a whole plethora of browsers, if you like, and you can write that in. I want to say you write it in PHP. I'm pretty sure you do write it in PHP. But that's something I need to cover. I haven't covered Laravel Dusk. Like I say, I'm not a massive front-end person, as several people will attest is a good thing. But I'm not very much front-end driven. I've only recently got into front-end now that it's become a lot easier, if I'm honest. Things like Tailwind and the lack of IE 11 make front-end development somewhat easier these days. So it's a little bit more attractive these days. But yeah, I'll line up some TDD for season 2. If anyone's got any ideas for a project as well, this one just came to mind because I messed about with it back in. I think I built this good 18 months ago or something. Had a couple of months off and hacked on a Laravel project for a couple of months with the amazing view of being able to monetize it of some description, but didn't do any of that. Just put it on a random domain and forgot about it, and it sends me. Oh, no, okay, I'm going to show you. I've probably got about 3 of them set on my phone right now. The push notifications aspect of things I really want to show in season 2. The native, there's a way of doing native native push notifications now. Costs you nothing, will run forever. It's awesome. Like, you basically ask the phone to generate you a push notification hook, and then you send notifications to the other end. There's no, as far as I'm aware, there's no Google GCM requirement or any of that stuff, as far as I can remember. But like I say, this was about 18 months ago I did that. So I'd like to cover that in season 2, but again, that's not very Laravel-y. But the notification side of things, being a user being notifiable, is a Laravel thing. So should be able to cover some of that. All right. Well, I'm going to leave you to it for the rest of the day, I think. I promised a bumper episode. We could cover some Tailwind stuff, but I'm tired, if I'm honest. I went kayaking yesterday. I didn't get very much sleep last night, so yeah, I'm going to love you and leave you all. Thanks for joining us. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. Cure good detail on series of talks on that. Webpack from Hamza. Yeah, so Laravel Mix is Webpack these days, right? Yeah, Webpack is a dark art, and one that I haven't really touched upon. I've used it for a couple of times, but yeah, if we've got anyone out there who's a particular Webpack professional, be good to hear from you. I know Sean has wrestled with it quite a few times with bundling and stuff. And like I say, Sean will be joining us next week for some Blitz.js. As far as I'm aware, building the same app, but it'll be in Blitz, and it'll probably build it in a week or something, Challenges now. I don't know whether he's still in chat. I haven't heard from him yet. Did he wave at the start? I think he waved at the start. He was definitely there to start with. No, actually he's not. We haven't seen him at all. Is Sean even here? Amazing, I just dubbed him in. Sean will be doing Blitz.js stuff next week. Join us for that. Same time, Wednesday. Got a couple of people in line for potentially a November slot. But if you'd like to fill it while I work, there he is. So yeah, Sean's here. Sean will be here properly next week on Wednesday for some Blitz.js stuff. And Mr. Bayer, check out his GitHub. He's doing loads of talks at the moment, actually. Kind of used as, kind of went, I think we were, That's me. That's you. Have a good day. Enjoy. Give us a shout on Discords. you'd like me to cover anything else in Season 2, etc, etc. Cheers, Hamza. Thanks for all your help. There's been some interesting ones there. And your, and your fixing of things. Good evening, Simon. Whoop whoop to Chris. And I'll see everybody else later. Oh, Friday, Thursday, Cyprus, like I've said about 100 times. Friday, social club. Come join us for the social club. We've been playing Among Us. I am horrendously addicted to that game. It's one of the reasons I didn't sleep last night, because I just couldn't go to sleep. And we were playing quite late. It was good fun. Check it out. We'll be playing it on Friday, undoubtedly. Also, this guy, I might share some links later. My wallpaper, the guy that made the pictures of the moon, pretty sweet. I don't know whether anymore I can flash through anymore. But yeah, anyway, I'm going to stop bambling on and leave you to it. So yeah, thanks for joining me. See you all later. Bye bye.